Welcome back. And so last week we left you with damp proof course on the bottom layer there. We built the frame, we put our loft insulation that I had spare on top of that in the gaps, and then I put more damp proof course on top of that. We also followed the instruction manual to say that the first 6 layers are what you need to install. As you can see, there are no hammers involved. Yeah, there is just hammers, no nails, no screws, nothing. Just put 6 layers in, put them in position. Now, as per the manual again, we get to put floorboards down, and this does involve no too small amount of nails, I hasten to add. And the piece of wood that you can see there is so that I know where the nails are being banged into on the joists below, because they're covered up in black plastic, aren't they? Now, as the end of evening 1 is approaching, Fiona comes to give me a hand, and we can get pretty much all the way to the end on this one, but there's not a lot more we can do tonight. And have to say, painting that fence wasn't a 5-minute job either, but it's done. And so on to day 2, we have consulted the oracle, as in the instructions. We now know what planks need to be kept for this particular piece. They're on the inside of the cabin. You can see that we've also read the instructions on how to build the door. This came with the sides already on it, and all we had to do is fit the top and the bottom, so that was another 8 screws, and we put that on the outside, and we tidy up the underlay for the front of the cabin. And then we come across the first problem. There is no way in the world that the 2 of us can lift that door up high enough to get over 6 logs. What we decide to do is take it back down to 3 logs. We do this via the reverse process that we used to put them back in. So a piece of wood is used to smack them in an upward direction, which then pops them out. The only problem is they're all interlocked, so you have to start at the far end and work your way all back round. Then lift it over that, which we can do, and then build up the remaining logs back to the 6 where it should be. And yes, I said 6. For the eagle-eyed amongst you, you'll only see there's 5, and it clearly says in the instructions there you need 6. So, and to save you doing what we had to do, as in take the logs out yet again and put them all back in at the right height yet again, all windows and doors are at the same height. So that door that's in, the windows need to be the same height. And a bit of tapping all the way around to make sure the logs are in and sealed properly. Now, it's supposed to be raining tomorrow, so our goal here is to try and get this up to roof height and make a start on putting the roof on, but we'll see how we get on. But our stock of wood is getting lower and lower the higher and higher we go. Some of the ones you see on the floor there are also spares. Now, I'd say that these 2 pointy bits of the roof, as in the bits in the middle, I think they're called gables, not quite sure, but either way, that's where most of the effort needs to be spent, obviously because it ties the whole lot together in terms of its strength, and also ties the front and the back and the sides all together as well. So as I'm looking at it, it's the corner front left here. Obviously that's where all the doors and the windows are, so we make another check on those just to make sure that everything's working as it should be. Now, this is also where you'll spend a bit of time trimming. For example, if you look at that window that's directly in front of us here, you'll see right at the very top it's got a piece of wood which has actually got a 45-degree angle that's been shaped on it, which is fine, but on the inside of the cabin facing outwards, where you have the doors and then 2 other windows, these things interfere with each other, so therefore you got to take them off and trim them a little bit and put them back on. But once all of that's done, from an aesthetic point of view, everything looks fine and works properly as well. And now that we're up to roof height, all trimmed and tightened, we can begin to put the roof on. as we start putting the roof on, wouldn't you believe it, the clouds get greyer and greyer, the days drawing to a close as well. So how much can we get done before all hell breaks loose? You also play a good game because obviously you're hammering the planks in, but the other ones are beginning to slide. And so we'd reached to the end of the day. There obviously is a halo coming down, shining on our roof. But not so for the rain, so we have to go and get that tarpaulin that we never use as a damper, of course, and put that on the roof. Good job we had that. And phew, what about that for timing? Here comes the rain. And so we let it dry out and then go back up again and put the missing nails back in there. So that's that job done. And then it's tarpaulin time. Oh yes, now on the tarpaulin front, there wasn't actually enough. They were short. So I just happened to have in my garage when I emptied it, there was a piece of tarpaulin I found rolled up in there, which actually formed that bit in the middle, which I'm doing now. So yes, Tiger Church, there wasn't enough. You need to revisit your measurements here. And now for the very important bit, well, aesthetically anyway, and we can do both jobs, front and back, at the same time here, once we trim that felt. Okay, here's something we found. In order to fit that beam, we have to trim the edge of that off. not brilliant at this stage, but you know, it's rounded rather than pointy like that end. Trouble is, we're going to have to do the same on that one, because that one is going to interfere with that one, which it is already. And then when you come to the other end of that, because it's not going to look the same, you need to do that one. That's a different to that one. I don't really have to do those, but then I would, because I'm going to have exactly the same problem there. It's not going to be going down that hole. We tidied up the front so it looks quite good with the underlay damp-proof course at the bottom there. That's the back bit, and it's got the felt inside it. I just need to put some nice bits of wood or something down the bottom down there to cover up that lot. And obviously the same at the back and the other side. And then inside we've got all the flooring done, apart from that bit down there, which is a floorboard that I need cut into size. The only other thing I found is the floorboard, the nails, it says you just go down where the buttons are, but you can't, because, well, not for the ones at the edge, because the edge of the cabins on that road, that lot down there, so they're actually resting on nothing, so they're floppy. So I do note that it says there's an option to screw or nail from the outside into the floorboard. You can do that as an option. I'm thinking, well, that's not an option, is it? That's what you're going to have to do. This is annoying, this bit that just wobbles under your feet here. It's because the buttons that they're using are only that big. Well, that big. What they need to do is add them that big. Then you could put those resting on top. But there we go. Well, there we have it. She's up. I'll just go behind the camera a second. You can have a look at this as we go. Before we go inside, I'm just going to have a look at the outside. So I have finished. That piece of wood is, according to the instruction manual, should be underneath the felt, but I'm putting it on the outside, and I think it looks nicer to look at than it is underneath anyway. As you can see, I've been to B&Q and bought some guttering, which has been fitted actually with this piece of wood that you do get with it, and I've just screwed that to the batten that I put underneath, and then fixed the brackets for the guttering onto it. The weather is supposed to be really good at the weekend, so I shall be sanding and painting this. I say sanding because some of it obviously still has some marks where it was in storage for a while, so that needs rubbing off because I don't want to varnish it over the top. My varnish, by the way, is a clear one, that's why I'm doing that. I've also fitted at the bottom, which is inside the pack. There was no instructions for what these pieces of wood were for, so I just reused them all to cover up the underlay which is underneath, and then I shall put a little strip of sealant across the top before I paint all that, so that stops the water getting into the underneath. Nothing to give you any in terms of the front. Like with all wooden things, you know, it takes a bit of tweaking to get things right, but you know, yeah, that shuts. I'm more than happy with that, and it locks quite nicely as well. I've uplifted to the mortise lock as well. Down the front here, the door was interesting to get in. I ended up taking those sides off rather than trying to lift it and slide it in, because it weighs a ton. They're double glazed, toughened glass, so the whole thing is really heavy. So I found it easier to take those off, slide the door into position, and then put them back on after we got it all square. So from that point of view, the windows are okay. Didn't have to bother with that, so they went up to 6 high. The instruction manual was okay on this side. It shows the full length logs you have to put in before you bother with these little ones that go down the middle. For your information, they have to be the same height. If you look at the manual, it will only show the logs that are required and not that bottom half cut one. So therefore all this had to come back out again because the window height was different to the rest of it, and they need to be the same. So yeah, there's all the guttering down that side. So we'll take a wander inside and you can have a look at that. One thing I'm not all that impressed with is the fact that when you do the boards, which are printed down here, so if you just we'll put the GoPro there so you can see it. If you were to stand on those, you see it flexes, goes down a little bit. The reason is there's nothing underneath the floorboards joist wise, so the joist just is for the edge. It doesn't actually, it's not actually too big in so much the floorboards can rest on it, so that's why they bend. Otherwise you'd have to go around and put hundreds of screws in. Don't know if I'll be doing that. But desks will be around here anyway, so you're not going to be standing on the edge, I suppose. There is that way to look at it. It did rain when we put it up, hence why they're dirty. I'm not so sure that I've been leaving this flooring. I'm probably going to stick some other flooring around it. But it does have the skirting boards that are on there now, and the what they call battens to hide all that stuff at the top. But I now have, you know, lighting, solar panels and all that to fit, so we are getting there. By the way, these rods, not rods, what they call these, storm things, can't remember what they're called, but anyway they're in, and what I will need to do is loosen off the bottom one, so I'll just show you over this side. There is a bolt, but I've put the bolt in too tight. It's the idea, it needs to be slack enough to be able to move up and down that as things expand and without cracking, of course. So I'll do that. The top end of it gets fixed. I need to show you over there. So those two ones there are the gable, and that's the rest of the shed below that. But apart from that, I was expecting, with any wooden products, I've done that over the years, the experience tells me anyway, that you will have to trim stuff. Things don't fit exactly 100%. So I think it looks quite good. Whether I'll leave it in that colour is quite another story, but all in all, well done, Tiger Shed. Now, on one of our trips out, Fiona managed to find a better decal for the top of the shed. We also found some external lighting and some blinds for it, and then I put the 250 watt panels back up. So all in all, thank you very much for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the little bell, and we'll see you soon.